I was supposed to be coming on a little bit earlier, but I had some things I had to do on this end. So what I'm asking everybody to do who is being admitted into the Zoom is to show your face. And I'm going to turn this over to Brother Nico. He'll be handling that in just a second. So I'm going to expand this and we're going to get right into it here as soon as I can turn this over to you, Brother Nico. And you can admit everybody. And I'm going to have everybody to definitely mute themselves. And if they have any questions, we're going to go through it because this is this thing that, you know, I think that it's a good conversation piece, and everybody has their own particular input and what they want to say. So this is kind of open and forum for anybody who wants to come and join in. I'm a little crooked on this thing too. There you go.
Let me further that those expectations only because we've talked. I've read multiple Facebook posts, and so we have all said our opinions. I guess what I'm looking to see is what would the outcome be? Is it, and I don't again, controversy and confrontation. That's not what I'm about at all. But I do want to know: is it that you want your side to be right, or
no? There's no wrong or right.
Okay. Is it just an opportunity for each to share?
Yeah.
I mean, what is the outcome?
The outcome is there's no wrong or right, because let's get into this as we begin to go ahead and open up the forum, because I got some things I want to read before we do that, and and I'm looking it up right now as we kind of talk a little bit. But first of all, the first question is regularity a myth? Okay. Is it obsolete or obsolete? I mean, is it the thing to be? Is it set in stone? Okay, like a fence, like stones. Can it be defined? Absolutely. Okay. Is it definitely? Or is it something of an idea that most can't meet the standards? Because like a myth of perfect man, there's no such thing as a perfect regularity, because everyone has skeletons in their closet. Is regularity just a constitutional move targeted, measured by Masonic generations after generations seeking perfection of operation? Is there an organization that can be viewed as the standard bearer for regularity? How did they obtain such an achievement of becoming the standard bearer? These are points that we're going to be talking about. Were they always perfect in the course of actions they took, or did they make the mistakes in their growth? How many definitions of regularity are there? Is regularity in practice ritualistic or an origin of authority? Or is this an old-fashioned concept that has no relevance in today's Masonic practices? Okay. So this is what we're going with this. Is regularity a mainstream concept designed only to keep Black people from attaining the equal status among Masonic elites? We're gonna cover all of this in our subject. This is our subject matter, but we're gonna cover all of that. Okay. So what I'm asking individuals to do is to post. I need to see your face for one thing, because people like to hide. So I know Brother Calvin. I'm familiar with Brother. There you go. I need to see faces, you know. And what I'm going to do, I want to turn this over to you real quick. If I can get in here, pin, stop video, chat, make host. You are now the host, Brother Nico. You're the it factor. So you can let anybody in. This is open. I don't care if they're male or female. I don't care if they're Masons or not. One of the objective is that they're going to have to show their face.
Okay.
And if you can go ahead and record it, it'll be great.
Brother Martel and Brother Beaumont, I haven't seen your faces yet.
Brother Beaumont might be working. I know him personally because this is something that he posted, and I love it. And I want to go edit tonight in this examination of regularity. Is it a myth? And I got I'm looking for something real quick. And everybody who's coming into the chat, what's up, brother Moment? And everybody who's coming into the chat, greetings, everyone. So we're going to get in this. If you want to join us on Zoom, it's already been posted in the chat. You can actually go to that site and click on it, and definitely you can join that way. But before we get started, though, I want to definitely wish everyone a safe holiday, and definitely keeping your family in prayers. I know we don't all agree, and some of us may even have opinions about the next person, but tonight, this is like an open forum of discussion. So if you got that smoke to bring it, or the heat, whatever you want to call it, bring it. And it's not my opinion that I'm going to be basing a lot of stuff on. It's going to be on things that I've come across that help me to base my own opinion, if you can follow me. Okay. So this is where we're going to go with this tonight, but I got to find, okay, I got to go back here. Nope. QRS. Okay. I'm looking in a couple of places for some information that I will be sharing. So I think that's going to be beneficiary for a lot of people, because we like to throw around definitions of different words and things like that without having the true definition of the word and using it correctly.
Well, that sounds fantastic. That's a good way to make sure that your point is being heard and not just an opinion, because everybody knows we all have our own opinion,
right?
And that's one thing we're entitled to. So, and that's why, again, I hate to just revert back to my initial question, but again, what will be the outcome? The outcome is that we're just going to share, but you guys will share, not you guys, and I say you guys by everybody pretty much who is in that group. Everybody knows everybody's opinion, you know what I mean, as far as what it is, but now you're asking a specific question about regularity.
So, well, what's going to end up eventually happening is everybody's going to make they're going to make up their own mind anyway. People are going to make up their own mind based upon their own information and how they receive it and how they break it down for themselves. So I can say whatever I want to say, but the point of the matter is, how did you get to where you're at based upon the information that you have? Because we can read the same book and get a different story out the book.
Correct.
So
it's safe to say that everything that before you even start this meeting, everything we can preface this with that all these are just opinions of these individuals. It'll be nothing coming from any lodge or grand lodge per se, because that way, if it is, then you have to bring that documentation, because then now you're going to start talking about what it really means and what makes the regularity, and then now you got to start talking about the rules of regularity. And so now then there's really nothing to debate, because those rules are put in line, and those rules are set in stone. They are set in stone. They were set in stone a long time ago.
But see, this goes. That's why you have your different sets of masons. Time out just for a second. That's a good topic when you say that about the rules and regulations. But whose rules? Whose regulations?
Well, I would ask the question of who it is that I would ask the question of who is it that has the almighty say over this idea? You're going to tell me that one entity or one group of people has the right to dictate to everybody else whether or not they can practice?
I hear you, and you make a
that's
valid
my
point.
That would be my question.
That is a very great question. And I'm going to tell you why that question is so great, because it makes common sense. Anybody who does not have common sense would not ask that question. So you're already ahead of the game. However, there is an answer to that question. It's not that it's one person, but it's called the bodies that be. And if you take that word regularity out altogether and replace it with another word, a synonym of sorts, which I would think of you accreditation. So you can't go to Master P's college and graduate with a degree in anything and think you're going to take it somewhere and get a job, because that is not an accredited school.
That varies.
The powers that be that set that in place is the federal government. So somebody wrote it somewhere to put the stuff in line, because people like Donald Trump and all these other people who are opening schools on their own were making money off of it, and the people were being duped. So they thought they had a degree in whatever it was that they were going in, because again, somebody told them, hey man, nobody owns the market on this. You can do what you want to. And they make it look good for you and it sounds good. You see what I'm saying? So, And then when they buy into it because it's a great idea, I mean, their common sense tells them, hey, look, I can do this. You know, this is okay. You know, there's other people around them who believe the same way. And then all of a sudden they take that paper, they take that, you know, what they've worked hard for, they put their blood, sweat, and tears into, and so now they go in somewhere and they show this and they get laughed at or questioned, or so now they're like, well, hold on, my whole everything is being challenged, but my integrity is what I have. And so, you know, you guys told me one thing, and here it is, I'm bringing this paper, and they're saying it's not a credit. And then you take that synonym and bring it back to recognize. So then again, there is a body that put it in place for it, because you can't just, I cannot walk out of my house right now and go perform surgery. I am not a surgeon. I can't sit online and learn and watch YouTube. You see what I'm saying? And not to take away from nobody else's organization, but there are people out there who are calling themselves Masons, who are making it up as they go. They get a Duncan, they get a look to the east, they get, you know, print offs from here, there, and the other. They hear these people tell them things. I mean, shoot, you got people who are consider themselves Masons, but they follow child molesting. So, I mean, when you need some kind of regularity, you need some kind of governing body, you know, that says, hey, look, hold on. You can't just do what you want to do. Now, that's what common sense comes into. So, when
now, hold on. Time out.
Go ahead.
I've given you about a good 4-minute spiel.
Thank you.
No interruption.
Yes, sir.
Now back to something you were saying. If a school chooses to accept your accreditation from another school, that's
Right.
what they do. Now, me working in the medical field, I know for a fact that people who come from other states, even if they're an RN, can't work in California. But you can take California certification and work in any 50 states because they accept that. So it's based, everything you just said is based on who's willing to take your paperwork. It's plain and simple.
And I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm so sorry. I'm just so sorry. I just want to try to clarify what you're saying, only because I want to make sure that, like you said, you gave me 4 minutes with nothing. So I only want to make sure that I understand you as well. So if I was here in North Carolina where I live, and I go to school here at UNC medical school, and I get my degree or whatever, and I pass all the classes here, and I work here, and then all of a sudden there's an opportunity for me to come to California. I cannot come to California and say, hey, look, hold on now. Look what I have, and show them my paperwork, and them accept me as such and give me a job with salary and this, that, and the other.
I'm telling you, you're going to have to take some extra classes. They're not just going to up and take it. Let me tell you,
So that means they don't recognize me.
Well, if you take the extra class, classes, they'll take it. But see, here's what we're doing. Here's the thing we're doing wrong. We're taking jobs, we're taking other entities and bringing them in and comparing them to Freemasonry, which is a good allegory, which is great. But I don't want to do that. I want to go straight into the Masonic work and use that as my basis, as my premises, to bring in who you can get a diploma from here and go. No, I'm not going to use any of that. I want to use the fundamental Masonic concept of regularity, recognition, who brought that in, how it was set up, the whole thing. I don't want to bring in outside jobs and education and a judge of this. I don't want to do that. Strictly Masonically speaking.
So then we'll just keep it Masonically speaking. And so that means that there is no misunderstandings. Everything is going to be based off of the origins of Freemasonry. So are you prepared to go back to when it was the 3 mother lodges and how you have to get your recognition from either one of those 3 mother lodges?
Well, are you prepared to go back and see that those 3 mother lodges was actually charging and saying in their own history that if you didn't get it from them, you was not recognized? That's their standard.
Yes, I am.
So and not only that, let's go back before the mother lodges. I mean, because when you're talking this thing, Masonry evolved into a business. It was never really a business as we know it today. This is something it evolved into.
Absolutely.
So when we began we're already into the conversation. First of all, the first question is regularity a myth?
I would say no.
Okay, anybody else? This is open. I want to hear from anybody else. Is regularity a myth?
I mean, I just kind of walked in, so I'm trying to figure out. I'm listening real good because I'm using my jewels right now. I'm trying to get a feel and flow of how this is going. But I'm gonna say this: if we talking about, I'm gonna be straightforward. If we talking about some Europeans being the mother lodge, I don't even want to hear that.
Okay. But if this is just so everybody will know, this is really an open topic. The question is,
if a brother want to get permission from Caucasians, then go ahead and get your permission from Caucasians, brother.
But hold on. Look, it's okay, but let me explain something to you. You do realize that John G. Jones got his charter from Romania. And Romania.
No. Time out. No. John G. Jones did not. And I've said this plenty of times before. John G. Jones, as far as the information I have, there's no set in stone, here you go, Hawkins, document that clearly says this is signed by the Grand Lodge of Romania. Here's your paperwork. Never happened that I can personally identify from. You're hearing it from me. I don't care what nobody else says until they show me something.
And I hear you, I appreciate the fact that that's what you like. So what I can do is I've seen it. I don't remember where, but I will find it for you, and I will send it to you personally. That charter and the conversation that supposedly come from some letter. And like I said, I only skimmed through it because this is not a big deal for me. What means a lot to me is I've already been on the other side, and so this is a chance to conversate. So that's why I said there's no confrontation. But I just want to step back just a little bit. And if you notice, the brother who said he didn't want to hear anything about being from Caucasians. Well, guess what? There is no Grand Lodge in Africa. There's never been a Grand Lodge.
Yes, it has.
There is or maybe that Grand Lodge in Africa maybe suspended. It may be suspended, but
no. There is the Grand Lodge of Lux is still the Grand Lodge of Lux is a Grand Lodge. It's there. It's not a myth. The Grand Lodge of Lux, which is one of the oldest, the oldest before Grand Lodge of England.
So remember what Freemasonry is. Freemasonry comes from everywhere. That's why it's so great. That is why.
So if it comes from everywhere, how does 3 lodges in Europe get to dictate who it gets to be a Mason or not? If it comes from everywhere, brother.
So understand this. We don't have all the answers, right?
We don't have all the answers.
Hold on, let me finish. Hold on, let me finish.
Hold on, brother. I listened to you address my sovereign.
I didn't even answer your question. You asked me a question, I didn't answer it yet. Well, all I said was we don't have all the answers. So is that they've taken.
Please mute yourself if you're not talking and part of the conversation.
The way they've explained it is that those 3 mother lodges is who put the rules in place. I am not saying that I am the one who put them 3 mother lodges and I made the rules for it. I'm just answering your question, dude.
Okay. So
that's
can we get a break?
I didn't make it up.
Okay, so this is what
Hold on. Those 3 lodges never claimed to be the mother lodge. Absolutely, that is true. That is true. Somebody posted that. That is true.
We put the dog out in the hallway. The dog be like, all right, I give him 5 or 10 minutes. He'll let me back in.
All right, go ahead and mute yourself. But let me get into this real quick. My first question was, is regularity a myth? That was my first one, and I opened it up, and I got a few comments in on that. Now, the next one I'm going to ask is regularity absolutely set in stone. Say what? Somebody said something? Brother Travis, please mute yourself. Trevon. Brother Kevin, go ahead and speak, please. Brother Kevin, go ahead and speak.
I'm sorry. There was a comment earlier that was made about 3 mother lodges, and I wanted. A lot of times when we say things, we tend to repeat things that someone told us, kind of like the indoctrination process. Every organization has it. So my thing is, what is the source when you say the three mother lodges specifically? What is the source for that? Has England, Scotland, or Ireland ever said that they were a mother lodge, and they control Freemasonry? I just want to know.
As far as I know, I'm going to have to say no. That's the only way I can answer that question. I can't tell you that per se, specifically. What I can tell you is that what the rules of Freemasonry said that there are these three mother lodges. And so if you can't trace your lineage to any one of those three mother lodges, then you're not a recognized sect of Masonry. Who made that up? You can talk about that another time, or we can talk about that too and go there, because that's what I asked Mr. Hoggins earlier, if he was interested in going there, because
yeah, we're gonna go there too. We're gonna.
He said all he wanted to do is talk on the level of Freemasonry. So based off of the rules and regulations of Freemasonry, what can we debate?
Excuse me. Hey, brothers, may I jump in on that one?
Go ahead.
Brother Dozier.
Yes.
Brother Dozier.
I'm here.
Brother Dozier.
He can hear you. Go ahead.
Hey, listen. If you have, I'm assuming you're in your higher house, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm in the consistent.
Check your volume 1. It'll lay all of that out. And you'll find that those so-called three mother lodges, well, those individuals that met in that tavern, you'll find that that was all about a money grab. That's how that clandestine, unrecognized, that's how that came into play. Because they said, if you don't get your charter from us, then you're not recognized by us. That doesn't mean you're not recognized, you're just not recognized by them.
And you're right. And you're absolutely correct. So that's why I don't sit back and make a big deal about it. I just know the rules. The rule says I can't come to your house. I can't go in your house, but can I be your friend? We can talk all day long.
But goes back to,
and vice versa.
but it goes back to this. Whose rules? I mean, because I have my own rules. Every jurisdiction have their own rules, their bylaws, and their constitution that governs them.
Let me ask you this. If you got somebody as a Freemason group and they walking around telling you you gotta walk and bark like a dog and this, that, and other, but yet at the same time, you're not a Freemason if you ain't barking like a dog. But they have no reason to do that. They just doing that because that's what they want to do. You see what I'm saying? Because they making it up as they go. But I mean, I didn't appreciate being part of a group that was making it up as they went. You see what I'm saying?
Well, okay.
I was really disappointed.
Okay.
My first initial.
I haven't had that experience. So.
I got a question.
Go ahead. Who's speaking?
Past Grandmaster Diaz. I'm on Zion Grand Lodge. I got a question because he keeps saying that people are making things up as they go, and that's his issue. But when you look across the board, you guys are making things up left and right yourselves. Let me finish. I hear your voice way more than everybody else's. So I'm just trying to make sure you can hear me. What I'm trying to say is, you're playing the fence, and then you're saying people are making things up. You can look online right now. The International Shriners are coming out with a Fred Flintstone degree. Okay. So people are making things up. You're saying on the go, it's happening all across the board. But you're screaming regularity when the quote unquote regular Shriners are calling themselves Flintstones now.
Bro, you do realize the International is not regular Shriners, right?
I understand where they came from. I understand the roots. So we're not going to
understand that.
He's talking about the international.
I'm not messing up.
Hold on. Time out. No. Hold on. Just mute everybody. Mute everybody. Sanchez, mute everybody. Hello. I'm okay.
Everybody, please hold on a second. We're going to ask you all to please take your time in speaking to each other. Remember, we're doing this with respect. This is about information and education. We're not going to allow people to sit in the room and argue. We're going to ask that you, as brothers, we meet on the square. So let's continue to do that. I'm going to unmute 2 people. That's going to be our research lodge, and I'm also going to unmute Brother Dozer, so that we can continue this
Yeah, babe.
conversation.
Yeah.
Hold on one second.
Yes, I am. Yeah, she's asleep. Okay, go ahead. And bring them back. Yeah, she's talking to her dad.
You should be able to unmute yourself now, John G. Jones. And Brother Dozer, you should be able to unmute yourself
she's here.
now.
Okay, all right.
How we doing?
No.
Hey, Brother Rhodes, I'm going to ask that you please mute yourself for a moment. We have a discussion that's going on, and you'll be able to jump in very shortly. Thank you, Worship.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Go ahead.
John G. Jones Research Lodge, there you are. You are able to unmute yourself, Brother Hawkins.
Okay, all right, I'm back. I hope everybody's kind of calmed down a little bit. We need to listen to each other, not talk over each other. So we're going to get right back into this topic right here.
I apologize. I'm going to make sure I listen. I apologize.
Oh, no problem. Everybody's going to get their chance to speak. I'll give it to you. But I don't want no one else to have that same opportunity. So I know that Brother Calvin had his hands up. I seen that. I know Brother Diaz was speaking right then. And what I'm going to do now is actually go over to Brother Calvin and see what else he had to say because his hands was up. Go ahead, Brother Calvin.
All right, Brother Calvin, you can unmute yourself.
I think we're getting away from the post. The post that was copied and pasted in the description.
Thank you very much.
And when I wrote it, it's an honest inquiry into what regularity is. And I kind of just it would be perfect if we could stay on those points because I'm trying to get a better grasp of the definition, not only the definition, but how does it apply to us today. So if we could stay with the points, then that would help give us a sort of roadmap so we can figure out where we're going.
Go ahead. All right. So we were on the topic for a second. Is regularity a myth? And then we went from there. And the next question is regularity absolutely set in stone like a fence? Is that something that is absolutely set in stone? Now that's the next question I'm asking. Is regularity absolutely set in stone? But I'm going to lead back to this always. Is by who? Because that's what it's always going to go back to. Who set it in stone? And does everybody abide by that set of rules? Because it's going to always go back to that. That's what I'm finding. When I was reading, I was like, well, damn, it took me back to who? And it kept taking me back to who, the ideal of whose rules, whose bylaws, who. And we need to, that's what I'm trying to identify. Because everybody is not going by the same rules and regulations. They're not. Everybody's not going by them. And I think that's what I got out of that, Brother Calvin. Everybody's not going by this, is not going by the same thing. There are some basic standards, but everybody's not going by the same thing. All right.
And let me preface. Let me just say this. One of the things that I found out was the Grand Lodge, the National Grand Lodge of France, which was created when you look at the dates of the other two bodies, that being the Grand Orient of France or the Grand Lodge of France. The National Grand Lodge of France is relatively new.
They are.
And they are recognized by UGLE. But UGLE has this thing about you have to have a Grand Lodge established by 3 lodges. But the Grand Lodge, the National Grand Lodge of France that they recognize was created by 2 lodges and not 3. And not only that, but they were established by those lodges that left the Grand Orient of France, which the United Grand Lodge of England considers the Grand Orient of France irregular. So that doesn't make sense to me because if it's set in stone, and American mainstream and French Grand Lodges are holding everybody else's feet to the fire, and UGLE is the standard, then isn't that doesn't make sense, because how can you recognize a Grand Lodge that wasn't established by 2 charters and also came from an irregular body? So is there such a thing? Is regularity definitive, or is it organization based? So UGLE said, well, we're going to recognize you. Was it a political move? What were they trying to do? And if it's so, then what are we really chasing here? Because if they who are the standard bearer, or they're the ones who created it, or they're the ones who say this is what regularity is, what are we chasing? Because
so let me ask.
A cut example of someone that's not following their own rules. I'll mute.
Okay. Let me ask, and I only asked because I did not know that part. When we had our last grand session, the Grand Master from France was there, and we had a discussion with him because we had a Prince Hall Grand Lodge there as well that was established by North Carolina, and there was some conversation about that. And when the question was asked, how many Grand Lodges do you have in France? His answer was, there are very many. However, there's only one regular and recognized Grand Lodge, and it was not the National Grand Lodge. So I didn't know, and I never heard, so this is new to me, that the UGLE recognizes 2 Grand Lodges from France, because per that Grand Master that was at my grand session, there's only one regular and recognized Grand Lodge from France, and it was not the National Grand Lodge of France.
I would ask this question here, because as I'll say a newer Mason, not somebody new to study, but as a new Mason, my question always reverts back to recognized and unrecognized. We have factions within religion, and that's the only way I can really create a visual of it. You have factions of religions that are practicing the exact same thing as as anybody else within that religion, call themselves something different, but they believe within this structure that you could say that that person is using Catholicism as this basis. You could say that that person is any less Catholic than somebody that follows the Orthodox or recognized way. They're not doing anything that's different. They're not practicing any way that's different. They're not living their lives any way different. They're following the rules and regulations, the bylaws and everything else. They just decided that the way that they're doing it seems like just that, a money grab. And I'm just going to stick to my temple, being my body or my home or my body of friends that all believe the same way that I do. And we are practicing Catholics. So to tell me that one person is irregular or one group of people that doesn't want to prescribe to a specific way that somebody else is trying to dictate to you is the only way you can actually practice, to me sounds like trying to create a monopoly on an idea. And nobody has the right to monopolize the idea of what it is to be a better person. No one.
You're right, bro. But you see, the only problem is I'm gonna have to be the a-hole here because remember, I just tried that. I tried using that same analogy. You and I are trying to use what's called common sense.
But
do that. I was just told that you cannot use another allegory to explain it.
Absolutely. I said this is what I said.
So everything you just said, even though it made sense, you cannot use that as an argument because
I'm using strictly a Masonic.
Okay. So if I was to use strictly Masonic ideas, and if I, being an individual who decides that I want to better myself, and I start reading books on Freemasonry, and I start learning about Freemasonry and what it is to be a Mason, you're going to tell me that my Freemasonry is flawed because I didn't want to follow the prescribed? That would mean I would be considered a clandestine Mason because I'm practicing the exact same way any other Mason would. But because I don't choose to go to Prince Hall, or I don't choose to go with regular, whatever is the recognized ways, let's just use that. I choose not to go with any recognized way. Because I choose not to do that, I'm clandestine, even though I may know every single thing, everything that any other Mason knows, I'm now clandestine because I don't want to prescribe to Prince Hall or recognized mainstream Masonry or John G. Jones or Ancient Free and Accepted, whatever the case is.
You're correct. So regardless of how you, and that's the bad part about it, regardless of how an individual may feel like you, this is your personal opinion. You don't feel that that's correct, that you are not, even though, because you would be a learned man. That means you took the time to do the research because you already striving to better yourself. So why be a Mason then? If you don't even have to be a Mason, why be a Mason? You don't even have to be. So then if you don't even have to be one, you've already read the books because there's really no secrets, right? Think about it, really for real. There's really no secrets, right? So then what are we really doing? And then that's why when I'm so interested in the conversation about regularity, because if you really think about it, you can go back to common sense. What are we really doing? Well, if we're going to spread light, and light is being truth, then there are some people out there that don't follow the truth. Now, if you're upset because somebody said you're not following the truth based off of what the rules say, I'm sorry, I can't do anything about that. You see what I'm saying? I'm not gonna sit here and bash like some of the other people do, but I'm just gonna give you what almost like the Bible says, thus saith the Lord. So if you don't think that homosexuality or whatever, but the Bible says so. So if you want to be a Christian and Christ-like, then you have to follow the Word of God. You know what I mean? And so if you don't follow the Word of God, then don't go to church.
Homosexuality, because the actual text doesn't say anything about homosexuality. It says you will not sleep with young boys or young children.
It don't say that either. What it does say, it says you're not going to lay with a man or a woman like you would with a man or a woman. A man was made for a man, and a woman was made for.
So look, before we go there, I need to bring it back. Hold on.
I'm not debating. I'm sorry, guys.
We're having conversation.
No. This is a conversation piece, but I want to stay on topic because we're missing some things.
I'm gonna bring it back, Brother Hawkins.
This is great, though. This is good. I'm glad we can talk. But this is what we do. If you think about it, think about the ancient Greeks at the Pantheon. This is what they did. They argued and they went and have a debate. That's exactly what they did. So this is part of democracy. Again, the rules that set themselves. There's rules in place, and so you can follow them or you don't have to. And that's bottom line.
But here becomes the next question. If there are rules in place and they were set by man and we are following deity, how are we supposed to make sure that those rules are just and right by man when they may not be just and right for every man?
It says that you should try the spirit, right? So
you should try the spirit, and if my God tells me to follow through with what I'm learning and the road that I'm following, how can any other entity or jurisdiction or man say that my masonry is clandestine? That's the question.
You're right, and they can think about it this way. This is your answer. They can say what they want. Do you have to accept it?
That's brother. I would agree with that, Mr. Dozier. I would actually agree with that one, brother Kevin. Go ahead.
There is no more. You see what I'm saying? So that's why I started a conversation with what would be the outcome. I enjoy sharing because I've read all these.
And I love the debate.
Okay, bro. Hold on.
Because brother Hawkins will tell you that in my travels, because I am the epitome of what we call a traveling man, I travel all over the country and I've met people everywhere. And as an ambassador for my jurisdiction, I have brothers from Scotland inviting me to the Grand Lodge there. I've been invited to the Grand Lodge in DC to become a member there. I've been recognized by countless jurisdictions across the country because of the fact that I've been told that I act and walk and talk as a Mason should. So I was brought up by some amazing brothers who I am glad to call brother that are on this call right now. My brother Noble Alexander, my most puissant sovereign grand commander, my grand master, my brothers that I would do anything for. I appreciate them every day. But because of their teachings to me, I have been recognized as a Mason. Not just any Mason, but what a Mason should be. And I pray the deity every day allows me to continue to do it. Yeah. Because I've never heard a higher praise of me than that.
And that's what's up, bro. I'm gonna tell you that. Let me tell you how good that is. That is so daggone great. Because let me explain something to you. That says that you're a good guy, whether you are a Mason or not. Because let me further that question with this. which lodge have you sat in with them? Because see, they recognize they
No, he was saying.
Yeah, I've been invited to Washington D.C. to become a member there. No, to become a member.
So which lodge is that they invited you to become a member of?
I have to look at the actual invitation because they sent me an invitation. I have to look at that. And the one in Scotland, I met that gentleman at a conference, and he says, "Brother, I implore you to come. I implore you to come to our lodge."
If you could please send me a copy, I just want to see it. Now, I'm not one of those people who share. I don't get into all that screenshot and stuff. That's not my business. That's not my business. I don't do that stuff. I don't do that.
Brother Kevin, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'll be quiet because you and I will be talking, bro. I'm sorry.
Brother Kevin.
We'll get together, bro.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, go ahead. Your hand was back up.
Yeah. The whole idea of clandestine and irregular Freemasonry actually started in 1751, and 1751 was the birth of the ancient Grand Lodge. And the premier Grand Lodge of England considered, and it's actually written and documented, they considered the ancient Grand Lodge to be a clandestine body, and it goes back to those three lodges forming a speculative Grand Lodge, and so they established themselves to govern speculative Freemasonry. And so, in essence, the argument can be made. One of the key points, or one of the reasons for regular or regularity, is to protect someone's intellectual property. And we can say that, okay, well, the ancients, they invaded the territory of the moderns, and the moderns, in order to protect their intellectual property, because it's historical fact. Some people will debate 1717, some will debate 1721. The point is at this point, it's not whether it's 717 or 1721, but the moderns had created something that they felt was theirs. And when the ancients invaded, or when they established, whatever the reasons being, some historians will say it was ritualistic, it was the religious part of the craft. Some will say that the Scots-Irish they were turned away from modern logic. The very first historical point of contention with regular or irregular Freemasonry came from the establishment of the ancient Masons, and they fought a brutal war up until 1813, when they actually merged to become the United Grand Lodge of England. So, in my opinion, if I was asked what is this regularity thing about, I don't think it has to do with your work, or I think it has to do with the intellectual property. And the reason why I think Prince Hall claims that is saying that you need to be, if you didn't get authority from this body, then you are perpetrating a fraud. Now we could discuss that further. We could break it down a little further. I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm not saying it's written in stone that way. I'm just saying, in my personal opinion, that when I look at what history says to me that it was about protecting the modern intellectual property. And I'll go ahead and read.
All right. So I have Brother Brandon Lewis. He had a valid point here that needs to really be shared. And his point is this, is that the question is it set in stone based upon who your jurisdiction chooses to abide by and under what jurisdiction you're abiding accordingly? I totally get it. And I'll bring you up just a second, Brother Noble. The mere fact that there are many jurisdictions for which many different Grand Lodges have amenity with. And when you find yourself like that, then your regularity with them are identical. So you accept that gentleman's basis for regularity, basis for amenity, whereas you may not accept this one. Whereas in the Grand Lodge of France, if I'm not mistaken, Brother Calvin, they don't have the Bible on their altar anymore. So the Grand Lodge of England says, since you don't have that, well, we can't deal with you. And now we will consider you irregular. So everything we're talking about is really based upon jurisdictions and their rules and laws that governs them. Now, Brother Noble, go ahead.
Just real quick. So the people that, we keep talking about these rules that were set in place. So my first question is when people are motivated or they decide to go about doing things a certain way. In most cases, is there not a such thing as an agenda behind what people do? I'm pretty sure it is, right? Okay, so with that being said, the people who wrote these rules that this brother keep talking about, I'm curious, are these the same individuals that would once, I guess, would say that Christopher Columbus discovered America? Are these the same individuals who would once say that, well, the black man is inferior to the Caucasian man? Are these the same people that put the Masonic rules in place, that they have those same other philosophies as well? I'm just curious.
Can I answer that?
Yeah, go for it.
Go ahead.
Okay. In my humble opinion, just mine. I hear where you're coming from with the Caucasian mix, but if that is that, and I can't answer all them questions for you like that, because then we're gonna start talking history. History says that the English freed their slaves a hell of a lot longer than they did in America. And if you think about what Freemasonry is a collection of thoughts from all over everywhere. So that means all this knowledge and information had to be shared. And as far as the brother Brahmat said, as far as that intellectual property takes you back to the reason why you're traveling. So if you're going to get paid, you have to know certain skills. So if you had to learn certain skills a certain way, then there's the only certain schools of thought that only certain places had to put rules in place so that you can be recognized. Because if that's the case, anybody could walk around and get paid back then saying that they was a Mason, right? Because we're talking about going way back when. If you even take it back to to Africa, we want to go back to the Egyptians and all that. Let's do that. So even if they were Egyptians and they might have been light skinned, or they may have been Hebrew and they lived around the Egyptians after they've been freed, can you tell me now an Egyptian can walk me to Hebrew, can go somewhere and say, okay, I'm a Mason because I live with the Egyptians? There's no recognition. They had to have some kind of recognition so that you can get paid your wages. So if you can't get paid your wages and anybody can get your money, then what's the purpose? So when you ask about is it set in stone, obviously it had to be. And you use that agenda, yes, there was an agenda. The agenda was so you can be recognized, so you can get paid. The whole purpose for you being a Mason. So if you take it back one more step, there's a lot of people that don't understand what it is to be a Mason. And that's the problem that we have when I said earlier about people making it up as they go. Brother, I don't mean to call you out and say nothing ill towards you, so please don't take this no wrong way. But if you say you are a Mason loves everyone. There is no African, no European, no Caucasian. Okay. Hold on, brother, one more thing. I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to talk. But there is none of that. You know, we can't justify that. That is the problem we have right now with the difference in the whites and the blacks here in the United States. They're killing us because they're justifying why they can do it. We can't keep justifying shit. Stuff keeps happening, but that's because people don't follow the rules. So you go to the police officers. They don't say shoot first. They have a whole protocol to follow. So when they do what they want to do, when they make it up as they go, oh, I was scared for my life, so I shot it. Oh, he kept moving. That's why I kept my knee on his damn neck. Come on now. So they have to be some rules somewhere. They have to be set in stone. They cannot be broken, because if they're broken, then you have chaos, mayhem. Chaos and mayhem is causing people to get killed or earn wages they don't deserve.
Well, we're already having chaos right now with the very thing that you said, that you know already that they've been changing those rules as they go. So go ahead. Who was up next? Somebody was about to say something, but anyway, so let's move on to the next one. It says, how did these Grand Lodges obtain such an achievement of becoming the standard bearer? How did they obtain it? That's on the questionnaire I have. How did these Grand Lodges, these three mother so-called Grand Lodges, or how did Masonry in general obtain such an achievement as becoming the standard bearer? Anybody want to tackle that, or I can go at it?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Love to hear it. I'm tired of talking.
Well, okay. And like I said, these are based upon I'm giving my opinion based upon the information that I have at my disposal. So based upon these particular Grand Lodges, in reading their own history, they clearly said that, hey, we're going to set this, these are our rules, and if you would like to be accepted by us, this is what it's going to cost you. It was a cost thing. And this is in their history, where you can go read it for yourself. Scottish Rite Volume 1 or 2 is one of them, but I know people would say, well, that's kind of biased. Not if it's written down and it's by you. And so that's where I go. If you write it down, it's about you.
Yes,
There ain't no bias in it. And they said that, and it's never been denied. The one thing that they have never said, these Grand Lodges that people claim to be the mother Grand Lodge, they never claim to be the mother of anything.
Mm-hmm.
And if they never said it, then I'm like, well, who gave them that, to call them mother? And like I said, I'm sticking with masonry. I'm not going to bring family. I'm not going to bring any of that to kind of give different perspectives. I'm going to stick strictly with masonry. Who gave them the title, the Mother Grand Lodges? And who said that you had to go to them in order to be accepted or recognized, unless you are abiding by their standards, not your standards, their standards.
That's a good question.
I have a question. If there was no standard, a law in process before they said, "Hey, we gonna do this." Now they set a standard and said, "We're gonna do this," and everybody decided to follow it. Who gonna argue? Because
go ahead.
That's what I'm asking. I'm asking that because if there was nothing in place prior to, and then you set a standard, and then everybody like, okay, well, damn, this is what we need to do it, whether it's right or wrong. But like I said, there was no process in place prior to that.
There was a process. There was no Grand Lodge system.
Okay, system, okay.
And I say that because these particular lodges that suppose had gotten together, you got to realize they was at a tavern for one thing. And these particular brothers from various lodges, they wasn't lodges, they was brothers from different lodges that came together to organize this thing we call the Grand Lodge of England. While there were already established lodges, they just developed a system that everybody said, well, I like your system. And if you like my system,
but like the brother said earlier, though, there was an agenda behind that. It was a reason why they would do that.
Absolutely.
He said he pointed it out, and that's great that he pointed that out. The reason for that is so that not anybody can make it up as they go.
That's true, but
anybody can come in line and say there's somebody and earn things they don't deserve.
Okay, now on that same scale, somebody else can go along and do the same thing, which we all know that happens. It is up to individuals, and I said always, and Brother Brandon posted it. I always say, go where you're accepted, and respected. I don't go where I'm tolerated at. I don't be around people where you just tolerate me. I always go where I'm accepted and respected. And when I say that, that's dealing with anything I do in life, and including masonry. So when you take that same concept, I don't have to work for JoJo, even though he may say I can. I don't have to. I can develop my own job. I have the skills to do it. So it all depends on who accepts what you're offering, and are you in agreement to that? And if you are in agreement, then you can work together. You agree with my rules? Yes. You agree? Yes. Let us work together in amity. Oh, you're regular. Oh, yeah.
But at
so
the same time, does that mean that I have to say that you are just like me, who went through everything that I went through, who did it the right way, whereas a group, it's not you. I won't call you out like that's not my job. But people that are out there that does things and just make it again. You guys don't understand what make it up as it go mean. I know that everybody is diehard and they're really dedicated to what they believe in. I commend you all because, brothers, whether you believe it or not, what we believe in is a big thing, a great thing. But at the same time, there's a lot of people out there making it up as they go.
You're speaking a lot of generalities, man. You're speaking a lot of generalities.
Well, what he's saying, hold on. I don't want us to go back to over speaking each other.
You talk a lot, you talk loud, and you make a lot of generalities, bro.
Well, okay. So what I hear him saying now, this is what I hear.
Just a generality.
It's not general. I'm saying what I know. I'm giving you facts.
Wait a minute.
Everybody's saying what they know.
Based upon
what they know.
Hold on.
Calm down.
So what is your opinion?
My opinion.
Hold on.
Every time somebody speaks, you outspeak them, you overtalk them with your generalities, and you go back and forth between on the fence and off the fence. Choose a side and stick to it.
Hey, Brandon, I told you I'm not.
Yo, shut up. Now, the problem is you're always
Hold on. I'm gonna have to mute. Hey. I'm gonna have to mute.
Okay, well, I'll let everybody. I'll do what you say and let everybody talk. That make you feel good.
than you here, right? For real. Stop
hold on.
I'm right
Look,
Virginia. You don't gotta do it. Trust me.
Look, we can't.
I'm just gonna sit back and listen.
Thank you. Please, I don't need this to kind of go left. I want to keep it a good conversation, because what happens is a lot of times we begin to have these conversations, then we try to overtalk each other. I don't want that to happen. I think this is a great dialogue based upon the information that Brother Calvin posted. I like and I enjoy what he posted. But what I found out is no matter how you break this thing down, no matter where you at, what I say in mine may not be what you say in yours. Everybody got different Masonic rituals with some of the same additives, just like sugar frosted cornflakes versus cornflakes. It's you got all of these mixtures, but somehow we're going to have to figure out amongst the craft, when are we going to start respecting the next person for the choice that they made? I may not like your choice, and that's totally you. I don't have to accept you as being a Mason, as I've been often told. I ain't accepting you because you're here. That's cool with me. But you damn sure got to believe, if I show you respect, I want it in return. If you can't give it, then we're not even have that conversation, period. So if you're going to claim to be something, anything, whether, particularly we're talking about Freemasonry tonight, let's show some respect towards the next person, based upon your dealings with them, because I found some great brothers in many different jurisdictions that my jurisdiction don't even have amenity with. But I found that person to be a great friend, a great brother. Whether I can sit in a lodge with him or not is not even the point, because we both know Masonry. We both know it. So me going and sitting in a lodge with him, or he coming and sitting in a lodge with me, what is that really going to do? I'd rather come to your house and break bread on a personal level than to be caught up in meetings, because you're doing the same thing, really and truly. And we all know basically we're doing the same thing. So I'm not going to beat that dead horse. I just want us to have this conversation to say, look, this is where I'm at, and let's have some respect about it. So the next one that was coming.
That's the question.
Go ahead.
Okay, I listened to everything you said, which is actually, pretty good and all that stuff. The problem is that we petty. And we petty on both sides. We go back and forward, back and forward. It'll calm down for a couple of days, but we just petty and go back and forth each other.
But see,
hold on, just like the society that we live in. We just petty like that. Unfortunately, it's a bad thing, and nobody's willing to be the man to step up and stop it.
Okay, I'll give you this. And that's a good point you just brought, but I'll give you this. What you just said is that we're petty on both sides. And since we know that we are petty on both sides, then that means we can do something about being petty, period. And that is by showing respect for the person who chose to go wherever they choose to go and practice this thing that we all say we enjoy and love, and that is Freemasonry. If we can just get beside and move our ego out the way, as you so eloquently put it, as far as being petty, then we are on the right road to being a true acceptance person of Masonry. That's my answer to it.
You're right. Actually, hold on. Go ahead, bro. Just give me 1 second. And I understand exactly what you said, and I watched your video when you talked about when John G. Jones had died, how everything went away, and we still living with that stuff today. You don't have that person that can just be like, hey, put that thumb down, put that crab down, and boom, and we're gonna get in line or whatever. Or at least we're gonna come together. I ain't gonna say get in line. We're gonna come together and speak on one voice with one fist. And you said that with that video, it's like, okay, when John D. Jones passed away, like everybody just wants, boom.
You're right, but I would say this, and I won't let the cat out the bag, but I will say this: a change is coming. A change is coming. The ideal is those who are involved on the outside, are they going to see this change and go, aha, or are they going to be the ones who try to disrupt the change. But I can say, without letting things out of the bag, a change is definitely coming. And when it comes, I want to see what people say then. Because when this thing pop off, and I'm hoping that everything falls into place, that's going to be the catalyst for a whole lot of things that's going to take place. So, anybody else before I continue, real quick?
Can I say something?
Hold on a second. Who said they wanted to say something?
Just me, Brother John Hall.
Brother, go ahead, Brother John.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on what you were saying a little bit when you was like, a change is going to come.
Right.
And you are correct. It is. And at the end of the day, and when it does come, whether whoever likes it or not, at the end of the day, still keep it going. Because even when the change is coming, we still gonna have that setback. You already know. So people still gonna be on the outside, like, well, man, why they did all this? Why they come together? Why they doing so? So it's gonna happen. Let's be real. It's gonna happen.
Because that was exactly where I was gonna go to. Was the question becomes? So I go to DC, and the Grand Lodge in DC recognizes me, and I become a member of the Grand Lodge in DC, which is a recognized Grand Lodge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm a recognized Master Mason from that Grand Lodge. So you're gonna tell me that because of the fact that my home jurisdiction, right, is not recognized, you're going to tell me that now I'm not a Mason when I'm more recognized than what you would be recognized? When I personally feel that all Masons are my brothers. I don't care where you come from, because that's what Masonry is supposed to be based on. It's not supposed to be based on, well, I'm this and you're that and you're the other. No, it's a society of men that share the same ideas. We're not supposed to be sitting there nitpicking over the things we're going to say yes or no to. It's the same damn thing. Why we got to argue about having that same conversation? You know what I mean?
I'm with you 110%, because once again, you are 110% correct. And it goes back once again with Brother Hawkins, and probably everybody's been saying on here, is once again, we got those nitpickers, we got those people that in some sort of form or fashion, you still got an in mindset. Well, even though we went over here to a recognized lodge, or he went over here to a so-and-so jurisdiction, well, I don't know, he's still clandestine, or he's still bogus, or he's not regular, which is not, it's still going to go down. At the end of the day, brothers, the only thing I'm saying is this. When you keep your mind focused on what this thing is, and we've said it time and time again about Freemasonry, is a beautiful system of morality of, you already know what it is. When you keep your mind focused on you ain't got no worries. It was the same thing, and I'm just doing a little bit of Bible parallel here, when they was on the boat, when Jesus was on that boat, and he told people to walk on the water. Because he took his eyes focused on what was going on, he was drowning. But when he stayed focused on the Lord, he walked on that water. He stayed in line. He met with him. The only thing, brothers, I'm saying, regardless of what the fact of what anybody got to say, whether it be irregular, whether it be clandestine, that's their problem. So what? Oh, well. Keep the mission going. Keep the folk moving and getting us working together. No matter what the mission is, no matter what's going on, no matter what's the French horse, Scottish Rite, York Rite, any kind of high rate you want to think of. At the end of the day, brothers, when you keep it focused, trust and believe, it will come together. There's going to be some setback. There's going to be some blows. There's going to be some people that ain't going to leave it. Oh, well. At the end of the day, brothers, keep it going. And I'm going to put myself on mute, brother. Y'all be blessed.
I'm gonna add to this real quick. Security. Let me see what the brother Cyber Security said. You guys are still on. You guys still cannot believe you're talking about this recognition bull crap. Well, it's bigger than just the recognition thing. This we're talking about is regularity and myth. This is not. We're not going back and forth arguing. We're actually having a great conversation and a debate in regards to it. So at the end of the day, we're all going to have our own opinion, regardless of what this outcome is going to be. Really, I'm not looking for a right or wrong. I'm just looking for a good conversation piece, because a lot of people like to bring in other entities, other jurisdictions that claim their where they're at is the right way, or where they may come from. And it's not necessarily that way, in my own opinion. So this is why we're having this discussion tonight.
Hey, can I ask one more question?
Go for it.
I actually make a kind of sort of a statement. When I posted that article, it was me regarding the 96 stuff in the group. So, and Brother Calvin, he replied to me. And my question is, everybody talk about requesting regularity recognition or whatever it is, boom, boom. Well, then you go back to John D. Jones. When he met with all these other folks, not necessarily requesting regularity, none of that stuff, but he met with them to expand Black Freemasonry. Would that not be considered not a request, but a hand out, or let's see where we're going to bring this all together? But these days, it's like when you go meet with somebody else to record, you know what I'm saying, for the same thing. Oh, now you reaching out to the white man.
Well, it's twofold. If I've told you I never liked you before, and I made that a public statement for the past 200 or 300 years, this is how I feel about you. And as time grows, there may be some changes. I may change about how I feel about you, but still, it's there. It ain't really going nowhere. We just learned that recently, although we may have somewhat tapered down here in the United States in regards to a lot of in-your-face racism, over the past couple of years, it's been in your face. It didn't really go nowhere. It just simmered a little bit, just like it is in Freemasonry. You know, these old Grand Lodges that we talk about, you know, do you think, or do I believe that I can go into a Grand Lodge of Georgia and see a Confederate flag in there and say, well, oh, that's your pride? Knowing that I know what the flag really means and how it hurt and decimated families, but they won't take it down. They saying, no, man, that's my pride right there, bro. Nah, I ain't taking that down. What? Just because they hurt your family and you may feel a certain way, I ain't taking that down, man. Forget you. But I knew, and everybody else knew what the flag stood for. I'm just saying. So
unfortunately, I agree with you on that. But being in the South, you have Black folks that actually fought under that same flag.
Well, they fought because they was forced to fight.
No, not necessarily. That's not necessarily true.
I would say, for the most part, I mean, I don't want to get off my subject, but I would say, for the most part, a lot of them was forced to fight, just like they was forced into slavery. It was you either did it or you was killed. So you had a choice. You either gonna die or you gonna fight. That's just I grew up in the South too. My home is Mississippi. So
I'm just saying.
I won't disagree that some fault on purpose. I won't disagree with it. Somebody mute themselves, please.
You know what's funny is I see this right here, and this will be my last statement. When I remember back in the early 90s, when everybody was wearing, you know, the Malcolm X, the black, you know, all that stuff there. And I ran across, when I was in the military, I was in the Air Force, and this white dude had a shirt on. He said, you represent your flag, and it had, you know what I'm saying, the flag on there, and I represent my flag, and it had the Dixie flag on there, the Confederate flag on there, and it was on one shirt.
Well, if you can be racist up in front of my face, I'm cool with that. Plain and simple. You know, but back to the subject at hand, I didn't want to get too far off of it. I appreciate everybody's comment. How many definitions are there of regularity? How many definitions are there? Anybody want to tackle that one? Because there are quite a few. There are quite a few definitions of regularity. And to break it down to you, regularity can be based on quite a few different things. Am I operating like you operate? Am I opening and closing like you open and close? That may be the regularity that brings us together. So regularity is based on different things that are happening within the various jurisdictions to bring them together. And what I'm finding now is that even with some of the lodges and grand lodges that we accept and they accept us, and we have this amity with each other, what I found is that we didn't do things the same way. You know, the opening or closing, it was done. It was some similarities, but for the most part, it was different. So, but in most cases, regularity is based upon uh, uh, grand lodges agreeing to say this is what we do the same, more so than difference. Anybody want to come in on that? I see some have left already. Okay, got their point in, and I know this. This is something I've always noticed when I have various brothers on from different jurisdictions. I find that the post is going to go up in various chat groups, and it's going to say this and that without people actually coming in and tuning in to find out exactly what happened. He couldn't take the smoke, or he got this, or he got that. That's why I'm actually doing this particular subject tonight, is based upon Brother Kevin's posting of it. Is regularity a myth? And he broke some things down. So this is really why we're having this conversation tonight. And I want to appreciate those who are in the Zoom and those who are in the chat tonight. How many types of Go ahead.
Okay, so I ask you for help. So that's basically asking. Well, not asking, but we all know that every, well, I ain't gonna say about Main Street, quote Main Street Grand Lodges open the same, but we know all Grand Lodges may not open the same, because here we have our own ritual. We don't use nobody else's ritual. We have our own. So if it's a matter of how you open and close or whatever that is to determine regularity, that's not the case here, because we don't use what they may use in Georgia.
What I'm saying is that if you're going to have acceptance, you're going to have to break down the regularity that you may have, or the similarities that you're going to have. From what I'm finding and what I've read in regards to various grand lodges accepting other grand lodges based upon these principles, this, and this. If you don't have this, then I can accept you, or if you have this, I can. So based upon that written agreement is where you're going to find the regularity at. Based upon that written agreement, because if you don't have it in there, it's not going to happen. This is why in some jurisdictions they say, okay, we will have this, we will agree that you are a regular body of Masons, but there will be no visitation. But we agree that we're regular bodies of Masons. If that be the case, well, hell, I didn't really need you anyway to tell me I'm already who I am. That's my point of view. In anything.
I mean, my thing is, we keep talking about these rules and these rules and these rules that's in place. And, you know, the UTLE wrote these rules, and I'm like, okay, they wrote these rules, but what does that mean? That's why I asked the brother. I said, are these the same people that enslaved Africans or black people because they felt like they were inferior? You talking about them people that wrote those rules? And then he was like, oh, well, the English, you know, they let go of slavery a long time ago. It doesn't matter, but they have people enslaved now. What are we really talking about? I don't understand. How do we get to a point where the wretched, vile person gets to set the tone of integrity and morality?
That's a good one.
I don't think they're in no moral position to speak about anybody in regular activities. How? Based upon what action that we see historically. So I don't be having time for all that shit, man. Excuse my language. I don't be playing.
Hey, well, shit. I actually, where is the original, I guess, quote, rules established back in 17, whatever they say.
Well,
as far as who can and who cannot be a Mason.
Okay, so when you say
where are those rules written?
when you say that, then those are the rules that they've written for themselves, and that's why I keep going back to who wrote those rules, who writes the rules, who set the standards, and in every jurisdiction that I've come across, set their own standards. They set their own rules. They do. If somebody can show me something different,
we can understand that with your own sovereignty, but where is the official rules from 17? What is it? 1799.
Well, people based a lot of information based upon Anderson's Constitution. Anderson's Constitution was not written for Black Masons, period. I don't care what jurisdiction you're in. It wasn't written for you. It was Anderson's Constitution. It's named after him. It was written for the body of Masons that he was a member of, that he worked with, that he was involved with. Just like my Grand Lodge has John G. Jones' Constitution. Then it has a set of John G. Jones bylaws. It's for us. It ain't for nobody else. It governs where you're at. Those rules, those regulations governs you, your jurisdiction. It doesn't govern the whole entire Masonic family. It doesn't do it. And this is where we find ourselves at a crossroads a lot of times.
I think the crossroads is that probably way back when they, I ain't gonna say agreed to, but abided by what did come from across the pond. And to this day, it was one of those things that was never really challenged until, of course, I would say what 1812, 1813, that whole war crap, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, it was like, I don't need you. What are you doing for me?
Right.
So, but everybody had already agreed to, abided by what was previously unnecessarily written, to now it became a problem. And so coming forward, the folks just kept it going. So then we, as I would say, on the Black Mason side, because even in Black Masonry, you have everybody. You don't just have, it's not just Black Masons. So it's kind of like, okay, well, are we going to keep doing this? Or are we going to keep doing that? So we decided to do this, and you have the majority of an organization, in Freemasonry in general, which is white, point blank, which was white. And
okay.
You have the small minority dealing with that and amongst everything else that was going on. So a lot of prominent folks, I guess, died off until then. And then you get somebody, I say, like a John G. Jones, who came in, who was smarter, more business savvy, basically just more intelligent than those white folks that he was dealing with, to be honest. He out-thunk them, he outworked them, you know what I'm saying? He used their same system against them that they didn't know about.
Mm-hmm.
And so then, okay, he kind of sort of established a organization. I ain't gonna say like not he established an organization, but he was a forefront person, whatever, within an organization, within Freemasonry period, whether, you know what I'm saying, just period.
Right.
So then you take the ego, that's what the ego's coming into play.
The ego is going to always come into play for quite a few of us.
And we destroy ourselves. If you think about this right here, if we could have stayed unified way back then, 1890, whatever it is, do you know how powerful that we would be?
Well, okay, and you're right, but we have to understand how things come into play and how they affect each one of us. you know, or affect us, period. And I would say this: until those who are in power, until those who are coming into power begin to make the change, it won't change. It won't happen. Even in my own jurisdiction, even in my own jurisdiction, until those who are in power begin to affect and make the change, nothing is going to happen. I don't care what jurisdiction you're in. So what needs, and what I'm finding needs to happen is that we need to start reaching across the aisles. Some of us don't want to do it because we're hurt. Hurt people hurt other people, masonically or in your life. And this is where we're at. But on the other side of that, once you're able to break down those barriers, this is where you're going to begin to grow. And that's why Brother John Hall, Lee Hall was in just a few minutes ago, and he was saying that, hey, regardless of what people are going to say, you must persevere. You must move forward, you know, in anything. If it ain't worth having, it ain't worth fighting for. So my relationship with other Masonic organizations, to me, is worth having. This is why we reach out. This is why we do what we do on this side, you know. So, look, we've been on here for about 120. I don't have anything else to add. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, especially in the chat. The chat was on fire tonight. And the brother said race didn't have all of that much to do with slavery or sides in war. Slaves didn't think they'd be free. They fought for the land they lived in. Oh, brother, that's another day. That's another day's story right there. That's another day's fight. That's for a whole nother day.
I'm not finna. Here's the thing. 1 + 1 is 2. You know, all this arguing back and forth about whether it's 3, whether it's 5. Man, listen here, man. No one's gonna be doing all of that. No one should even keep doing that. We know 1 + 1 is 2. If you want to make it 5, then you go ahead and make it 5. We know what the hell it is. Like I said earlier, certain people coming out of the Caucasus Mountains, they ain't got no business talking about any damn rules. They are in no moral position to say shit about what the hell somebody else is doing. Okay, because those people is the same ones that will sit up here and say why the black man can't drink from the same water fountain, why he can't go to the same school. I don't want to hear that shit. Not coming from no damn European. Masonry, the European man from the Caucasus Mountains did not start masonry. Period, point blank. It was a system of morality. The mystery schools have existed long before he was even in the camps. So I don't want to hear none of that shit. I'm not going to keep going back and forth, excuse my language, but that's just real. We're just sitting up here wasting time arguing with people who intentionally, their agenda, since we spoke on agenda, their agenda is to knock a brother off this square, have a brother traveling into some other direction other than which way you know you need to be going in, period, point blank. We got something we got to do. We ain't finna let these detractors stop us from what it is, and if they got a problem with it, then they know what time it is, period, point blank.
I see Noble Alexander is very excited.
Noble, I agree with you. I agree with you to an extent, but I will also say this. In addition to that, the teachings that I have been brought up with as a Mason tell me that if I am able to recognize another Mason, then he is my brother. So if I am able to question this brother and he is able to provide me with the correct answers and tokens and signs, then I will recognize him as a brother Mason. And if he chooses not to recognize me, that is his loss.
Bro, feel me? That's what I'm saying, bro. Like, I feel you, bro. But that's what I'm saying. Like, once you get past what you're supposed to do as a brother on the square, once you get past making sure that that the brother has made suitable proficiencies, once you get past the point of him truly identifying who he really is, man, come on, man. You stand on the square. You know who's standing on the square and who ain't. Just stop it. So just stop it. So if that brother presents himself and he's even to the point where you say it's yours for mine, and that brother pull out his dues card, you ain't got no business telling him he irregular or he ain't. Man, bro, I can't see those type of shit. See, that type of shit right there, bro. I don't play with the devil, bro. I take care of him a certain way, so I'm not the one to have those conversations. It'll go big. It'll go big. And that's probably my fault. But at the same time, I'm gonna stand on my square. I
voice of my entrance. One of them is dealing with fortitude. So you're not gonna sit up here and tell me that I ain't supposed to draw that sword. Period. Point blank. Now keep playing with me if you want to.
I love it, bro. I love it, bro.
I'm glad you did. You say that. So if somebody did do that, why would it go big? If you know
what? You know why? Because you know why? Because I'm gonna tell you why, brother. Because
ain't nobody gonna snatch no chain or no t-shirt off nobody. So,
I know that.
You haven't met Grandmaster Diaz yet.
Oh yeah, I'm about that. Like, I will snatch the chain. I will take your ring. I'm dead serious.
You're not snatching nothing.
I would.
Oh yes, we do.
Absolutely.
I told you.
Hey, look, stay on topic now. Look, y'all going left. Come on back. Bring it on back. Come on. Stay on topic. Stay on topic.
I believe that when it happens. Let me say what I was gonna say. I appreciate what you said, brother Alexander. I stayed quiet because everybody keeps talking about these agendas and things of those natures. There's an agenda right now why they called into the show. Everybody got an agenda. There was an agenda written by Prince Hall to attack Black Masonry in America. It's already an agenda.
I'm Prince Hall. I ain't taking
It's all good. It's all good.
I'm Prince Hall. I ain't taking nothing to you.
I'm not saying nothing.
So
that's not what I'm talking about.
You can't say it's a agenda that for Prince Hall to take whatever. I'm Prince Hall. I ain't taking nobody.
Brother Green, what I would
that's hold on.
I'm gonna let you talk. I'm gonna let y'all talk. Y'all talk.
Brother Green.
But Brother Green, I ain't taking nobody.
Right. But Brother Green, I would say in response to that, you Prince Hall Masons would consider me clandestine, and I would challenge, and as I always wear my ring in the right direction, I challenge anyone. My challenge is open because you cannot tell me that I am not a Mason. I was made a Mason before I was born. It's been in my heart since I was raised. Before I was raised as a Mason, I've always been a Mason. So for anyone to even suggest that I am not a Mason, I have every right to fight for what I believe.
Hey, can I answer that brother question? Can I answer that brother question?
No, give me 1 second, no, because I'm saying by Prince Hall standard, I would not be considered a Mason because your jurisdiction does not recognize mine. And for your jurisdiction to be the alpha and the omega in saying who is and who is not is something that I must question because you are another body of men, just like my jurisdiction is a body of men. And we practice the same thing. So it's time to stop all the bullying. And it's time to say, you know what? How can I call another person clandestine when that person may have more knowledge of masonry, 1, 2, and 3, than I do?
Or hat? No.
Okay.
Hat is
so
for
you understand what you're saying. But you, like everybody else, categorize everybody that's Prince Hall in one group.
Nope.
You don't know me.
I don't. I'm just saying. I'm not saying you. That's why
I have cousins that's international.
Right, but I didn't say you. I said by Prince Hall standards, they would call me clandestine. I'm not saying you specific.
That may be correct, but you can't speak to that particular brother, whoever you're speaking to at that time.
And with respect to that, I've had many a brother from Prince Hall.
I try to keep up as best I can.
And then I said, well, I've answered your questions. Are you willing to answer mine? And the brother could not share could not show his light.
And
I was sitting there saying, but you're a Mason and you have all of these questions, right? How is it that you, a man that's standing on your square, cannot answer the other questions of Freemasonry? And I was confused because he was not able to stand on his square.
Well, technically, if you had that interaction with that brother who didn't recognize you to clandestine or regular, y'all should have been on that whole topic. If that but I'm just saying, I'm saying, if he considers you to be that, then, as you say, Prince Hall don't recognize, y'all shouldn't even have that conversation.
Well, that's the thing. You don't know somebody's Prince Hall or anything until you start having conversation.
I don't know in the
I was like, damn, bro, you on your
Hawkins
I was like, come on, man, what about you? And so I started asking questions, and he couldn't.
You only talking about an hour and a half drive from
relatively new Mason. So
you know,
then I would look at him and
Yeah.
be like, well, what's Ritual teaching
there's
you?
always possibilities. You just
You know
don't
what I mean?
Nobody knows.
Oh, I understand that. Now, that's between hold on. That's between him and his
And that's why,
he's getting instructions from.
He may not have all the information that I've been given by my jurisdiction. And again, jurisdictions do think differently. Do I not recognize him as a Mason? I absolutely do, because the questions he asked me, I had the answers for. And some of the questions that I asked him, he had the correct answers for. Do I recognize him as a Mason? Absolutely. And when we built further, he didn't have some of the answers.
Well, I would say this, based, let me say this, based upon what I'm hearing, and I do agree with Brother Lewis. He said we have circled back to simply just to where you are accepted and not tolerated. You also don't have to be accepted as to what others call you. He's absolutely right. And Brother Brandon Lewis, I would say he's a Prince Hall Mason from Tennessee. Correct me if I'm wrong. Your Prince Hall Mason is a general statement, he said. So, you know, he's absolutely right. We keep going around the Mayberry bush or the tree, knowing that we have a solution. We all know the solution. The fact of the matter is, are you willing to act upon the answers that are before you, the solution that's right before you? Are you willing to accept the next person who claimed to be a Mason and can identify and show you that he is such? Are you willing to accept him? It's the basic fundamentals. It's not outside of anybody's principles or scope of practice. It's basic fundamentals of Freemasonry, as the ambassador brother Sanchez, you know, who's the ambassador for the jurisdiction. That's why he said, "Hey, I've traveled all over the country. I've traveled the world, and I have not yet been denied." And the brother asked him, "Well, did they invite you to the lodge?" He said, "Yeah." He just hadn't gone yet. So what I don't want to happen is that I don't want him saying these things, and then when he goes, he get a blowback on it. Because a blowback will come. As much as people say, "Well, I ain't gonna say this and I ain't gonna say that," a blowback will come.
I'll say this, Brother Green. I am extending my olive branch to you. Because as Brother Hawkins is trying to allude to, we need to have this conversation. So I am willing to travel wherever it may be to have that conversation with whomever it may be in your jurisdiction to find out how we reconcile this rift between Masons with melanin. Because I've got a couple, 50, 60 lodges in South America. We got Trinidad, if I'm not mistaken, Dominican Republic, Haiti, somewhere in the Caribbean. We got UK. I've got lodges that I'm interacting with everywhere. And for you to say, for anyone, not you, let me rephrase that, for anyone to say that any of those jurisdictions or any of those grand lodges or any of those lodges should not be recognized and should not be able to practice Masonry, that's a lot of people and a lot of fellowship that you would be missing out on, and a lot of information and knowledge. So I open myself up to you. I'm willing to come and have conversation and sit down and you know, maybe we get to the point where it's like, you know what, y'all are doing what we do. Why is there a rift? Let's resolve it.
I would tell you this. I would sit down with you and talk. But as far as what you request, you know, like even sending it on you, that's above my level. That's
Brother Green said, "Hey, that's above my pay grade. That ain't for me."
Cannot speak for the Grand Lodge.
No, I'm not asking you to. What I'm saying,
I will speak to you. And we can sit down and talk anytime.
But somebody has to take the first step and present it. My Grand Lodge, because I do sit in my Grand Lodge. I am the Grand Senior Deacon in my Grand Lodge. I am not the Grand Master or the Senior or Junior. I am the gentleman after them, well, behind the Treasurer and the Deputy Grand and everybody else. I am that guy that is willing to sit down with anyone and have this conversation. But it also takes hey, you know what, Grand? I had a conversation with this brother. He's from another jurisdiction. He wants to talk to somebody from Grand Lodge. It takes the introduction for that to happen. It doesn't have to be with you because I understand what you're saying. You don't have to say, well, I broke bread with him and we had a whole conversation or none of that. It could be, I spoke to a brother that approached me.
I break bread with anybody. I break bread with anybody. Anybody I feel comfortable breaking bread with, like I told previously, you know, I on Facebook, and I told, you know what I'm saying, but even mad, I say, next time I come back to Houston and Katie, we can sit down, we can go have drinks, chit chat, and go shit, and shoot shit.
I got work in Katie. Hold on.
I'm not in Katy, of course. I'm in Duval County. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just saying, I don't have a problem with breaking bread with anybody. But now, like I said, I would not go outside of my Grand Lodge. You know what I'm saying? Back law or something. Because guess what? I'm a member of the most worst review Grand Lodge Club.
Okay. Well, you probably know my brother. You probably know my brother Charlie. Charlie. Goes by our chief Charlie.
So here's what I'm gonna do, gentlemen.
We'll talk about that later, though.
Yeah, because we'll beat this dead horse. This horse has said, forget about it. And this conversation has been great. Brother Willie Green, and I call you brother. I appreciate you coming on tonight. I really do. Great conversation.
I saw you say at the time, I was like, well, I know I'm sitting here with this Patriots game on too at the same time. But they didn't want to come on and chime in because, you know, it ain't like that. You say, hey, you get 20 fingers, you come and say what you say with your fingers.
Absolutely.
Say it with your mouth.
Okay, the brother, I was trying. Okay, so there's a difference in rituals, conversation versus fellowship. Laughing out loud. It's the same conversation over and over. Brandon Lewis, boy, that's why I like you. But look, we're gonna go ahead and log off tonight. I appreciate everybody coming in, and thanks once again, brother Nico, for being the host tonight. As I had to release that over to you. And if you can get anything out of this conversation, understand that masonry is too broad, too big for anyone to have their foot on the neck of masonry, but you can have the pulse of masonry. With that being said, please, whatever you do, stay out the bushes and keep your light on. And I thank everybody for coming on tonight. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, y'all.
Brothers, I've ended the live screen. I want to say thank you for coming on. And don't forget we got to get back online in regards to our meeting in regards to the crypto. How you doing, Brother Walker?
Hey, I'm taking rings all week. I heard that. I'm taking rings all week. Fuck all that. I've been trying to be cool because I'm at work. I'm trying to be cool, and I didn't want to be on the YouTube seeming like really irrational. But hey,